3 lessons that I learned after studying GCSEs and A-levels that I wish I had learnt earlier. The first is that you must have a structure. This is done by ensuring that you follow the leading academic techniques. This assumes you are dumb and don't know anything. The reason this took a long time for me to learn was that I went to one of the worst schools in England, and I thought I was the smartest thing since sliced bread. It was all about showing how smart I was, and I took that into uni with me, only for me to realise I wasn't who I thought I was. The rest of these guys all had straight A stars and A's as well. Now I felt embarrassed thinking like this, and it was only much later when I shifted my mentality towards evidence-based skills when it came to studying. This only happened when I started to teach others, and I realized that the secret to success is not talent but working in the right structured manner. Now there are many things to be aware of when it comes to the best studying techniques, and I've done a video of it in a great detail over here, but really you need to think about 2 things. Number 1, the specification, and number 2, the papers to actively test yourself. So if we look at the specification, you have 2 scenarios. You have a scenario where a student believes everything that the school teacher is telling them, and they just rely on what the school teacher has said, only for them to find out in the exam that they haven't covered certain topics. Or scenario 2, where I've realized that I have to be someone who independently studies, or my students have to be someone that independently study and ensure that they have used the specification as a checklist so they can't go wrong in the exam. Papers, pretty simple. Do as many full papers as possible, not topic questions from physics and maths tutor. You want to experience the full ebbs and flows of a paper, and that means you must do the whole paper in one sitting in exam conditions. If your knowledge isn't improving after doing these papers, you've learned nothing. You've wasted your time. So it's very important that we learn our mistakes. There is an Islamic tradition which states that a believer is not stung by the same hole twice. Einstein has a similar saying where it states the definition of insanity is doing the same thing again and expecting different results. So we must learn from our failures. And here's the thing, in a video game, you can kill the final boss in about 10 hours. In real life, it might take more like 10 weeks. The way you need to frame this is that failure is good because you learn from failure, and that success is good because you're successful. So either way, it is good for you, whatever happens. Lesson number 2, get the right habits and routines in place. What I realized was that when I was younger, I was the kind of kid that the teachers hated because I flunked my lessons, I didn't do my homework, and I thought that was cool. Until I got into Oxford and I realized that I wasn't even playing in the same league as the other students, let alone the same pitch. Think about it like this. You're a fish in a small pond. The pond being your school. All you can see is what happens in your pond. You don't see what the other top students do in these other schools or even across the world. You don't see their habits, you don't see their routines. So we really need to take a step back and realize that what we see is a very small part of the world. So during one of my first days at Oxford, after the initial week, I saw students going into the library for 8 hours before even doing their first lecture. And this was quite shocking to me. I thought, whoa, that's a thing? That before we've even started the lectures, that students are studying for a whole day. And this was a real kind of shock to me. But what's interesting is that wasn't even the most extreme scenario. I actually knew a guy who was doing physics in my year who had completed the whole of first year physics before joining Oxford in the summer. So if you want to achieve the top grades, you've got to have the right mindset, because it might not catch you out now, but it will for sure catch you out at a later stage. So if you want to achieve the top grades, you need to have the right habits. Can I look at your day and it tells me that you are an A grade student by what you do? Here's what I see a top grade student doing. I see if you're a student in year 11, 12 or 13, after school, you're typically studying about 4 hours per day, and you're limiting screen time to about 30 minutes max. So how do you compare to that benchmark? The thing is that the champions, these top students, they don't have something extra that you don't. They're not special. In fact, they have something less than you. What they do is they eliminate, they sacrifice their distractions. They are ruthless. I always thought it was about saying yes when I was younger. I even remember I was in a chess final during my 6th form, and I knew I had the beating of this guy. But I was so distracted by another football game that was going on that I wanted to attend, that I rushed my game and lost to a simple blunder. All because I wasn't laser focused on the task in front of me. And I'm not going to lie to you, this one took me a long while to learn. So how do you change this? That brings us to our third point, accountability. I used to think that I had to do everything independently, but think about it. If you were to climb Mount Everest for the first time, would you climb it alone or would you climb it with other dedicated climbers? Of course, you would climb it with a group of others. So why is it that when we want to get top grades at GCSE or A-levels, which is a mammoth task, we think we need to do it independently? So when you have these goals of doing lots of past papers, studying for 4 hours, studying with limited distractions, you really need to get someone like your parent, like your siblings, maybe your friends, maybe your teacher, your tutor, a coach, someone who is going to hold you accountable to your high aspirations. Number 4, you have the willingness to learn, because as the saying goes, you can take the water to the horse, but you can't make the horse drink it. So be ready to learn. Shed that ego. Learn from anyone who has better grades than you. Start asking yourself, what does this person have that I do not have? What does this person know that I do not know? This video was completely free of charge to you guys. So if you benefited from this video in any manner as part of a gentleman's agreement, I would love it if you could like and subscribe.